This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Drug of choice. Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. Marijuana is now officially the most used drug in America. There are nearly 21.5 million daily or near daily cannabis consumers in this country. And that surpasses the number of those who smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol on a daily basis. Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel.
70 to 80 million people now are using it every year. That's 4 times what it was 20 years ago, and they're not using the same product either. Potency is way up, and the more that you use high-potency cannabis, the more you need. That's the addiction piece of this.
Dr. Siegel says more than 15% of pregnant women use marijuana for morning sickness, and that's dangerous because the drug interferes with the brain development of unborn children. 24 states have passed laws permitting pot for recreational purposes. More than 40 allow the drug for medicinal reasons. The first deaths linked to the dreaded cyclospora outbreak have been reported in Michigan. 2 people with underlying health conditions died after contracting the illness. Family physician Jessica Gray says if you have a stomach bug that lasts longer than 1 to 3 days, you should probably see your doctor.
We have treatments. For this one specifically, unlike things like norovirus, which does not have a treatment, we have an antibiotic that works that's fairly common. It's trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, Bactrim. It's a very common antibiotic that we can use that is effective.
The source of the outbreak seems to be shredded lettuce from central Mexico served at Taco Bell restaurants. Nationwide, more than 18,000 illnesses have been reported in 45 states. The U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz continues today, and the commander-in-chief says it will remain that way until Iran capitulates. Trey Yingst at Fox News.
President Trump posted on Truth Social, nothing gets through to Iran unless we want it to, and nothing will get through unless a deal or total surrender is accomplished. The president went on to say whether Iran wants to admit it or not, we are in fact talking of a solution to a problem that they have caused.
ABC's Karen Waugh has more from the White House.
As President Trump issues another ultimatum to Iran, he's also picking a fight with America's biggest oil companies.
They're making too much money. I don't like it.
Exxon and Chevron just reported blockbuster second quarter profits, thanks to oil prices surging higher during the war. Chevron alone made $12 billion, nearly 5 times what it made a year ago. Drivers are paying the price. Gas prices are now averaging $4.09 a gallon, more than $1 higher since the war began.
Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan says if the price at the pump stays where it is right now, we'll likely hit a new record soon.
After August 8th, if the national average is still above the $4 mark, it'll be the latest in the calendar year that we've ever seen that $4 a gallon mark still stick around.
DeHaan says the good news, though, is pump prices are still below the all-time high set back in 2022, and gas demand typically slows after the summer months, which could help drive down fuel costs come the fall. A Spokane, Washington man with a prior manslaughter conviction, accused of setting one of the largest wildfires burning in the country right now in the Pacific Northwest. That fires destroyed hundreds of homes and displaced thousands of residents. Fire Incident Commander Tom Clemo.
The next week or so are going to be extremely difficult as we start to grasp the overwhelming amount of damage that has been done in this community.
The 37-year-old suspected firebug has been charged with first-degree arson and being held on $1 million bail.
When he was detained in the early stages of the fire, he was found to be in possession of some waterproof matches and a butane lighter.
Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles. Crews are hoping to make progress against the fires today. Starting tomorrow, a heat wave will bake the Pacific Northwest discussed for the remainder of the week. The Senate Judiciary Committee voting today to move the nomination of Todd Blanche to the full Senate for confirmation. All that's needed is a simple majority to make Blanche the nation's next Attorney General. He's been serving as acting Attorney General ever since the president fired Pam Bondi back in April. It's primary day in 5 states, none bigger than the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate in the state of Michigan. NBC's Shaq Brewster.
Four-term Congresswoman Haley Stevens taking on progressive Abdul El-Sayed in what's become the Dems' most expensive Senate primary race ever.
El-Sayed is hoping to cash in on the Democratic Party's lurch to the left. GOP strategist Tricia McLaughlin.
All signs and all polls are pointing to the fact that El-Sayed will have a very big win in Michigan. That should concern all Americans, not just the Democrat Party, that a purple state would answer to the siren song of socialism.
Abu El-Sayed denies claims he's a socialist, even though he's embraced socialist views. Primary elections are also being held today in Missouri, Virginia, Washington State, and Kansas. President Trump has brought together the biggest names in artificial intelligence. They're all gathering for a cybersecurity summit at the White House today. The president wants the federal government to evaluate AI systems before they go online. It comes as concerns grow over the risks posed by this emerging technology. Still to come on the Noon Report for Tuesday, homeschool controversy, Shamokin Dam water woes, and celebrating National Night Out.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. A terrific Tuesday underway weather-wise, but changes come later in the week. Forecast details are up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Let's check the stories making news across New York and Pennsylvania. We'll begin in Shamokin Dam, Pennsylvania. Water customers there face emergency water restrictions today. It's due to recent storm activity affecting that Northumberland County community. The mayor says sediment washed into the river and has overwhelmed the water treatment facility. No outdoor watering or non-essential water use is permitted in Shamokin Dam. The mayor notes that while the current water supply remains safe, the reservoir is nearing a critically low level. A federal judge has issued a split verdict in New York's battle with the federal government over ICE activity in the Empire State. The judge ruling that the state's ban on local cops cooperating with ICE is an appropriate means of protecting the public welfare. However, that same judge has also blocked a key provision of the law which banned ICE agents from wearing masks or requiring them to display ID. New York's Attorney General has sent a letter to local law enforcement agencies ordering them to end their cooperation with ICE by August 25th. A homeschooling parent in one New York community is up in arms over a new district policy in the town of Edmonston in Otsego County. Homeschoolers are no longer allowed to administer final assessment tests if they want their children to receive a letter of high school equivalency. Andrea Dennekamp has been homeschooling her kids ever since the pandemic. She tells Spectrum News why this new rule was handed down by the school superintendent.
She is claiming parents cannot be trusted to be unbiased evaluators of their children's progress.
Ralph Rodriguez with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association says no state clamps down on homeschoolers quite like New York does.
By far, New York is the most highly regulated state in the nation.
He says this new mandate is excessive and punitive for homeschooling parents like Andrea Dennekamp.
You're dealing with the family several times throughout the school year. You should see by now whether this homeschool program is up to par or not.
Final assessment tests in the Edmondson School District must now be done by somebody who is state certified and not related to the student. Over the past decade, homeschooling has surged in the Empire State by a whopping 178%. A second sexual harassment claim has been filed against Buffalo School Board member Louis Mookie Hawkins. An attorney for the woman claims there were multiple instances of inappropriate conduct. Hawkins was named last month in a separate complaint that led to the resignation of the Buffalo school superintendent, who was also accused of abuse. The state's education commissioner has appointed an advisor to look into what's going on in New York's second largest school district. Student loan forgiveness may soon be on the way for young farmers in this country. Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn G.T. Thompson is co-sponsoring a bill he says will help save the agriculture industry for future generations. We get more from Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
Thompson and 3 other lawmakers introduced the Young Farmers Success Act last week. The bipartisan bill would make young farmers and ranchers eligible for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program and help them manage their student loan debt. Thompson and other supporters argue it will help preserve America's agricultural economy. The bill is supported by a long list of farming organizations. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. A new statewide campaign in New York dubbed They Trust You aims to keep highway workers and first responders safe from the motoring public. The public awareness campaign will run through September. Last year, there were more than 200 work zone crashes on the state thruway alone, and that's the most of any year since 2020. Pennsylvania's 2 U.S. senators are putting politics aside to tackle one of the state's most destructive invasive pests. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
Senators John Fetterman and Dave McCormick have introduced bipartisan legislation to expand federal research into spotted lanternflies. The proposed bill would make the invasive insect a high-priority research initiative for the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. First discovered in Berks County, Pennsylvania in 2014, spotted lanternflies now infest most of Pennsylvania and threaten grapevines, fruit trees, and other crops. Studies estimate the pests cost Pennsylvania's economy more than $300 million each year. Officials continue to urge residents to destroy lanternflies anytime they can. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. The Pennsylvania Department of Aging has taken unprecedented action after uncovering serious concerns at a county agency that's responsible for protecting older adults. The state has suspended Potter County's Office of the Aging from providing protective services for the next 180 days. A neighboring agency that serves Cameron, Elk, and McKean counties will take over those responsibilities temporarily. Erie County, New York, has officially transferred ownership of Highmark Stadium to the state of New York. We get more from Family Life's Dee Haley.
Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz has officially signed paperwork to transfer ownership of Highmark Stadium to New York State. For the first time since 1972, Erie County will no longer hold stadium ownership. Erie County owned the former Highmark Stadium, but in talks with the state on the new stadium construction, it was negotiated that New York would own the stadium rather than the county holding the deed. The first event at the new complex will be the Blue and Red Practice on Saturday, August 8th at 7 p.m. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Can't wait to see the Bills in their brand new stadium. Thank you, Dee. More sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, we said it yesterday. More trades were going to happen in Major League Baseball, and boy, did they ever. Here are some of the players, and again, I emphasize some because there were a lot more, but some of the players who have changed teams. Luis Arraez is now a Philadelphia Philly. Adley Rutschman has joined the Red Sox. Chris Bubic went to the Dodgers. The Guardians picked up all-star pitcher Foster Griffin. Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor, formerly of the Mets, are now Cubs. Pitchers Robbie Ray and Casey Mize are now Padres. And the Pirates added Luke Weaver and Kirby Yates to their pitching staff. Again, more trades went down. Don't have time to talk about them all. They did play some games yesterday, and it was a wild one at Yankee Stadium. The Cardinals raced out to a 6-0 lead, but the Bronx Bombers stormed back to grab a 7-6 lead after getting home runs from Ryan McMahon, Jose Caballero, Austin Wells, and Trent Grisham. The problem, though, the Cardinals belted 6 home runs of their own, including 3 from Alec Burleson, and they stormed ahead to win the game 13-7. Spencer Horowitz had the big hit for the Pirates in their game against Milwaukee. It was a 3-run double, and the Buccos beat the Brewers 4-3. The Pirates definitely have the Brew Crew's number this season. Nobody else really has. The Bucks have won 6 of 7 against the team with the best record in the Bigs. Phillies came from behind to take down the Nationals 6-3. Derek Hill hit a granny. Bryce Harper a 2-run shot. Elsewhere, your winners, the Cubs, D-backs, Giants, and Rays. Junior Caminero went deep twice for Tampa Bay in their victory. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy Man. Still to come on the Noon Report for Tuesday. Judge rules on masked agents, pot, the new drug of choice, and medical missions in Guatemala.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. 50 years ago, Chuck Colson founded an organization that God has used to change the lives of millions of men, women, and children across the globe. The story of Prison Fellowship Ministries had an unlikely beginning. Charles W. Chuck Colson, known at the time as President Nixon's hatchet man, was a new Christian when he was serving prison time for a Watergate-related offense. His faith was tested behind bars, but he was sustained by the unwavering support of his wife, Patty, and many new Christian friends from the outside. He focused his energy on ministering to his fellow inmates. Near the end of his time in prison, a large fellow prisoner named Archie confronted him. "Hey, Colson," he snarled, "you'll be out of here soon, so what are you going to do for us?" Chuck said, "I will help in some way. I'll never forget you guys or this stinking place." "Bull," Archie yelled back. "I've seen big shots like you come and go. They all say the same thing while they're on the inside, then they get out and forget us fast. There ain't nobody that cares about us. Nobody." And that's what did it. Or better said, that's how God did it. Chuck Colson launched what became the largest prison ministry in the world, well, because someone told him he wouldn't. On August the 9th, 1976, Chuck filed papers to incorporate Prison Fellowship as a nonprofit ministry. He not only kept his promise to remember those who were in prison, he mobilized thousands of Christian volunteers and churches to do the same thing. For 50 years now, men and women behind bars and their families have heard the good news of Jesus Christ through Bible studies, seminars, and mentoring. Leaders have been trained, children have been remembered, justice has increased, churches have been founded, and lives have been made new in Jesus Christ. For example, aiming to break the cycle of crime and incarceration, Prison Fellowship has mobilized thousands of churches and volunteers through the ministry of Angel Tree, which delivers Christmas gifts to the children of prisoners in the name of their incarcerated parents. Today, 1 in 28 U.S. children have a parent behind bars, with the majority of those parents being fathers. The Angel Tree program provides gifts to children whose parents are in prison from their incarcerated parents. It's a way for families to stay connected while also hearing the hope of the gospel. Angel Tree also provides opportunities for these children to go to camp in the summer. Chuck also led Prison Fellowship to advocate for biblically based justice reform, to train wardens and prison staff, to help those who leave prison make a crime-free return to their communities. And his work continues to bear fruit. Just a few weeks ago, Joshua Smith, Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, praised the longstanding and new work of Prison Fellowship, saying, quote, "I've seen firsthand the impact that ministries like Prison Fellowship have on the inmate population. It's exciting to envision the impact that this expanded partnership with Prison Fellowship will have on the incarcerated and their families." Prison Fellowship is a tremendous example of something that Chuck often said, of the church being the church. That ministry has been transformative for thousands through justice reform initiatives, in-prison outreaches and programs, family ministries, warden training, and church partnerships. In his 36 years of public ministry, Chuck advised presidents, received honorary degrees, and won the nation's highest civilian award. But he often said that the greatest joy in his life were the living monuments of God's grace, the prisoners who were transformed by the love of Jesus Christ. I want to invite you to join Prison Fellowship's next 50 years of ministry. Participate in Angel Tree, pray, donate, or go join them in visiting those in prison. To learn more, go to prisonfellowship.org. That's prisonfellowship.org. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, thank you for that, John. Outside we go next. Weather where you live with weatherman Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. For this afternoon, it's a beauty with abundant sunshine, pleasantly warm, high temperatures, lower 80s. Clear tonight, low temperatures in the lower 60s. Tomorrow, some sunshine for a while. There'll be a couple showers and thunderstorms reaching parts of Pennsylvania in the afternoon, high temperatures in the 80s. And then on Thursday, mostly cloudy, humid with showers and a thunderstorm or two in the area, a high temperature Thursday in the 80s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Here's what's happening Tuesday, August 4th. New York's mask ban for ICE agents has been blocked. A federal judge issuing a preliminary injunction against that law, which prohibited federal agents from wearing masks in the Empire State. The judge said New York cannot impose its own uniform requirements on ICE. The same judge, however, did uphold a new state law that bans local police from cooperating with ICE. Marijuana is now the drug of choice in these United States. In fact, more people smoke pot on a daily basis than use cigarettes or consume alcohol. Fox News medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel.
We've done a good job at letting people know how bad cigarettes are, and now we're letting them know how dangerous alcohol is. But we're not letting them know how dangerous cannabis is. We're downplaying that. We keep talking about medical uses like for pain or for insomnia or an anxiety, when not only doesn't it work well for that, it increases anxiety and it increases insomnia, and it makes underlying psychiatric problems worse.
24 states have passed laws permitting pot for recreational purposes. More than 40 allow the drug for medicinal reasons. President Trump says ExxonMobil and Chevron are making too much money in these days of $4 a gallon gasoline. The commander-in-chief says the nation's two largest oil companies ought to give some of that money back to the people. The president adds that he's a big free enterprise sort of guy, but he's not happy about the situation with gas prices right now. A 37-year-old Spokane, Washington man under arrest and charged with setting one of the largest wildfires in the country right now, raging in the Pacific Northwest. That fire has destroyed hundreds of structures and chased thousands from their homes in the Spokane area. ABC's Alex Stone.
More than 10,000 acres have burned in the Spokane area. Fire trucks surrounded by huge blazes as crews rush to contain the flames. The sheriff saying 14 people are unaccounted for, but incredibly, nobody has been killed or even seriously injured, despite the flames moving so quickly.
Fire victim Chris Stanley says it's shocking to her to think that somebody may have done this on purpose.
What could the punishment be? I'm a Christian, and I can't imagine what goes through a person's mind.
The suspect, who has a felony record for manslaughter, was spotted with waterproof matches and a butane lighter. He's being held on $1 million bail. The Senate Judiciary Committee voting today to move the nomination of Todd Blanche to the full Senate. For confirmation, all that's needed is a simple majority to make Blanche the nation's next Attorney General. He's been serving as acting Attorney General ever since the president fired Pam Bondi back in the springtime. It's primary day in 5 states, including Michigan, where the Democratic race for U.S. Senate has captured the nation's attention. Far-left candidate Abdul El-Sayed hoping to cash in on the party's growing fascination with socialism. Tom Delacara with Politics in Perspective.
I think El-Sayed wins. He's up big in the polls. And what that does is fuel the Democrat civil war.
NBC News political analyst Steve Kornacki.
A major story we've been following throughout this primary season has been the rise of these far-left candidates in Democratic primaries. They've scored some major victories. If Abdul El-Sayed is able to win tonight in Michigan, by far, this would be the biggest win that the left wing of the Democratic Party has posted in these primaries.
El-Sayed denies claims he's a socialist, even though he's embraced many socialist views. Primary elections also being held today today in Missouri, Virginia, the state of Washington, and Kansas. The first deaths linked to that cyclospora outbreak are being reported in Michigan. Dr. Bill Schaffner with the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine says it is rare for the severe stomach illness to become fatal.
Most at risk are people at the extremes of age, the very old, the very young, and people with chronic underlying medical conditions.
The source of this outbreak seems to be shredded lettuce from central Mexico served at Taco Bell. Nationwide, over 18,000 sicknesses have been reported in 45 states. You're tuned in to the Noon Report, a Tuesday edition on Family Life.
This is Mission Pulse. We spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. This week, we spotlight New Impacto Ministry. With me, Dr. Joe Dupre, who coordinates with Impacto via New Hope Wesleyan and runs the missions trips out of Hornell, New York. Hey there, Dr. Joe.
Hey.
You're gearing up for the very next one on August 7th. And many of us have gone on missions trips, and we all bring unique gifts and talents to the table. But I find it so exciting to hear about a medical doctor that steps away and flies to a country like Guatemala to help the sick. Tell me about New Impacto Ministries and what happens when your feet hit the ground in Guatemala.
Impacto Ministry is a ministry in Guatemala that is Christ-centered. Really, their goal is to bring people to the foot of the cross, to bring people to salvation, and they use various different methods to do that, one of which is medical care for people in villages in Guatemala and the mountains that don't have access to medical care or to medicines. What we do is we go there for a week. We are transported by them up into a village, and we set up a clinic in a church usually, and we see up to 100 people during the day. There's usually me and two other Guatemalan doctors, and people are coming to us with their needs and their medical concerns, and it's just a fantastic opportunity for us to be Jesus to people.
What does a day look like?
We are bused up to this village, and we don't know what it's going to be like when we get there. Usually there's a church which is maybe the size of a large living room. They have plastic tables and chairs, and we set up a medical clinic in that space. And then people will come in and they get their vitals taken, they get weighed, then they see one of the doctors, then we give them medication. What's great about it is Impacto has churches that they've planted or pastors that are friends, and we'll go there, and then the people from their community come into their church and get cared for. And I often will say, to a particular individual, Jesus sent me 3,000 miles to talk to you. We pray with all of them. We generally have between 5 and 20 Guatemalan people that give their lives to Jesus during those trips.
How long have you done these trips?
2009 we started, and then took a break for 7 years, and then it's been every 6 months since then, since 2016 until COVID.
Wow.
And then we were off, and then we've been going back.
Why do you keep going back?
Number one, because God is called, and there have been times when I've been like, I don't know if I want to go twice a year, and I have not got permission from the Lord to not go back. They have it set up so well that you just want to go back to see your friends. It's almost like a family reunion, but then you're also serving the Lord, and they're also ministering to us. And I personally totally enjoy taking new people because it just opens their eyes to see authentic Christian people that have nothing, that are happy with nothing. And we're worried about all our, if our cell phone isn't the best one or whatever. And these folks have nothing, and they're just love Jesus. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Share a story with me out of Guatemala that shook you.
There are so many. They had given out 80 tickets, basically, for people to come in and be seen. And I had a Guatemalan doctor with me, and his mother-in-law suddenly passed, and he had to leave. And so I had 80 people there that I was going to be seeing that day in about 6 hours. And it's just crazy. Like, how do you do that? And so I said to the pastor, Tony, Tony, maybe I just should do the medicine real quick and not talk about God here during this time. And he said to me, well, Dr. Joe, it's up to you. Whatever the Lord has for you, listen to him. I'm like, okay, that wasn't permission to not talk about Jesus. And so the first woman I had was this woman who was dressed traditionally in Mayan. She only spoke Mayan. And I'm like, how am I going to talk to this lady through the translator who's going English to Spanish to Mayan and then back to Spanish and back to English? I said, do you know Jesus? And she said back, I want Jesus. I said, well, what did she say? She says, I want Jesus. I said, well, what do you mean? She says, I want Jesus right now. And I said, okay. So we prayed for salvation. And it was just this crazy thing where God had prepared her. We got through that day. We prayed for several people. We prayed with several people. It just was miraculous, that this woman I couldn't even talk to and couldn't spend 20 minutes explaining about salvation. She just says, I want Jesus.
Anyone can go on these trips. You don't need to be a believer and you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse. What have you found when people go?
We go there, we leave some medicine, we leave Jesus, hopefully, but it affects us. I tell people, the risk of going is that if you are lukewarm or if you're not a believer, the risk is you're going to come back on fire and you're going to come back believing because it's hard to miss. It's hard to ignore the Holy Spirit down there. It's life-changing.
Why do missions trips matter to you?
God speaks to us through the people that we serve, and it is an opportunity to be Jesus to other people in a very powerful way. People that hear this interview might be called, and if they're called, they can contact us and we'll take them.
That's Dr. Joe Dupre. If you want more information, you can go to newhopewes.com. And the organization they work with in Guatemala is impactoministry.org.
All right, thank you, Sarah, for that. The name of the program, Mission Pulse, Tuesdays during the Noon Report. We spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. And finally at noon for a Tuesday, Cops and the Community. That is the gist of tonight's 42nd Annual National Night Out. It's a nationwide event held every summer on the first Tuesday in August to help foster positive vibes between the police and the community they serve. Albany, New York Police Chief Brandon Cox tells Spectrum News,
we have a community policing philosophy here in this city, and that's really about partnerships between the police and the community, recognizing that public safety is not something that we can do on either side alone. So we really want to make sure we build those relationships.
Last year, 17,000 communities across the country took part in National Night Out events, and it happens again tonight. A great way to say thank you to those who protect and serve. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, the 4th of August. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.